Hi guys, today I'll be showing you my version of pastel. I've got 3 egg yolks in here plus 1 whole egg. I'll just gonna crack this egg and combine it with the egg yolks. All in all, I use about 3 and 1/4 cup of flour plus 2 tablespoons, 1 package of yeast, which is 7 grams, half a teaspoon of salt, half a cup of sugar, 150 grams of butter, and 2/3 cup of warm milk. Begin by adding 1 tablespoon of sugar into the warm water. Give it a good mix. What we're gonna do here is to test if the yeast is still alive. And then we're just gonna leave it for about 5 minutes or until when you see bubbles is forming on top of the water. And this is now ready. Moving on, I'm getting 1 cup of the plain flour. Into this I added half a teaspoon of salt. Give it a good mix until they're combined, and then add the yeast mixture. Give this a good mix, and then we will leave this to rest for about an hour or until the dough doubled in size. Put this in a warm spot. As for me, I put it in the oven, and then I use hot water to create a steam that helps the dough to rise. After about an hour, the dough's doubled in size. We are now ready to move on to the next step. So I'll be using my stand mixer here. Of course, you can use your hand to knead the dough. Then I added the sugar, the eggs, and the flour. This flour is about 1 3/4 cup of flour. But again, all in all, I use 3 and 1/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons. I'll show you when I add the remaining cups. So mix this at a low speed first, and then start adding the butter, which by now is at room temperature. As you can see here that the dough is so sticky, so I'm adding my first cup of flour again. That's 1/4 cup going in the bowl. And then you can see that it's still so sticky. I will add another 1/4 cup. So at this point, I know that my dough is still sticky. So now here I'm being careful, so I'm adding flour a tablespoon at a time. So all in all, I added 2 tablespoons, and that's the second tablespoon already. So one way to know that it's the dough is ready is to check the bottom of the bowl. See if there's no more dough at the bottom. The hook is slowly picking up all the dough. Knead this for about 7 to 9 minutes, or until the dough is smooth. As you can see here, that the hook is now picking up all the dough from the side. At this point, I know that I don't need any more flour, so add a little bit of flour if needed, because sometimes the weather affect on how much the dough will need flour. And this dough is now ready. I can feel that it's now smooth. So I'm gonna roll this into the oil from my bowl that I used before. Again, I will leave this to rest for about 2 hours. While the dough is resting, let's prepare the yema filling. I've got 30 grams of butter, 3 egg yolks, lemon rind from 1 lemon, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch diluted in 2 teaspoons of water, 1/4 cup of evaporated milk, and 1 can of condensed milk. In a pan, preferably non-stick, combine the condensed milk, the egg yolks, the cornstarch diluted in water, the milk, and lemon rind. Now we're gonna move on to the stove. Turn on the heat with the heat setting at the lowest. And this step is really important to continue whisking. And don't walk away from the stove, or else your egg yolk will curdle. At this point, the yema is slowly thickening up. So I'll switch on to a wooden spoon. Once the yema has thickened up like this, we can add the butter and then continue cooking this until they start coming together. And this is now ready. We will set this aside and let it cool down completely. We're still waiting for the dough to finish rising at this point. After about 2 hours, the dough is now ready. I'm gonna be using cupcake pans to mold the pastel. So each dough, I weighed them for about 40 grams, but you can make your pastel as little or as big as you like. So here, I'm just flattening up the dough, and then in the middle, I'm gonna put the yema. The yema is about 1.5 teaspoon. Again, you can make it as little or as big as you like. With this measurement, I made about 25 pieces of pastel. And then just to show you one more time, next step is really important, is to let this rest for about 40 minutes. And while this is resting, preheat the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. After 40 minutes, the dough has doubled in size. So I've got 1 egg here that I lightly beaten. And then I just gonna use my pastry brush to put the egg wash on top of the pastel. And then we're gonna bake this at a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 12 to 15 minutes, or until the top is golden brown. And this is what it looks like after baking. And then the second batch. And this is our finished product. They are so good. I promise you, you will not regret making this. It takes a little bit of time, but it's so easy to make. So I hope you give them a try, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.